It's clear that new Steelers head coach Mike McCarthy wanted to add some weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So they decided to first and foremost get another wide receiver. Out of nowhere, trading for the Indianapolis Colts, Michael Pittman Jr. And there was some talk that the Colts were going to trade Michael Pittman, but I don't think anybody thought that Pittsburgh would be in on the sweepstakes. But adding a solid wide receiver too, heck, you could even argue a solid wide receiver 1B to DK Metcalf is the first step in making this offense more explosive. And to get Michael Pittman, all it took was a late round swap of picks to also bring in Pittman. And that is a really low price to pay, considering that you're going to be taking on some of that contract as well. But this offense needs playmakers. And now adding Mike McCarthy to the mix as head coach, you could see from an outside perspective that he wanted to change things up a little bit this offseason. But then later in the day, the Pittsburgh Steelers strike again, and this time they add to the running back room by bringing in back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher Rico Dowdle. Last year in Carolina, kind of a surprise 1,000-yard season after Chuba Hubbard went down with an injury. 2 years ago, a breakout campaign in Dallas. But Rico Dowdle and Mike McCarthy are very familiar with each other. When Rico Dowdle became the main running back in Dallas, it was Mike McCarthy that told everybody, hey, this guy is a complete running back. I love what he can do. We're taking him off special teams and we're going to give him more touches in the run game because we want to see what he has. And Rico Dowdle showcased that for the last couple of seasons. This is bad news for Jaylen Warren. But what does this mean for the quarterback position? Because without a quarterback, it's going to be hard for anybody to make this offense run. And as of right now, we have not heard a whole lot from Pittsburgh on what they plan on doing at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, to me, I would believe is still the main guy. They would probably like to have Aaron Rodgers back. And I'm willing to bet that if Rodgers wants to play another year, more than likely, he's going to go back to Pittsburgh for another season. Him and Mike McCarthy are familiar with each other. It sounds like whatever beef they may or may not have had has been buried and they are fine moving forward. But the decision is going to come from Aaron Rodgers. And I'm sure Mike McCarthy would love to have him back for another season. And as far as this offense being as good as it can be, I would say that Aaron Rodgers is probably the best fit to get the most out of all of these guys. But as of this recording, there is still a possibility that they could go with a Kirk Cousins, that they could go with a Kyler Murray as well. I don't think they're going to move forward with Will Howard as their starting quarterback this season, or maybe they do try to find a way to move up and attack one of the quarterbacks in the draft that they feel like comes after Fernando Mendoza. There's a few different things that the Steelers could end up doing here. And as of now, I still think Aaron Rodgers is probably the favorite to be starting week 1 at quarterback for Pittsburgh in 2026. As far as DK Metcalf goes, I'm not overly worried about him. Do I think he takes a little bit of a hit in terms of potential targets? Yes, but Michael Pittman being there shouldn't hurt him too much because we saw DK Metcalf be very successful battling with Tyler Lockett for wide receiver 1 and 2 in his early days in Seattle. And even though Tyler Lockett saw just as many, if not more targets than DK Metcalf at times, DK Metcalf was still a guy that was scoring double-digit touchdowns during his beginning run in Seattle. In fact, last season was the first time in his career that DK Metcalf didn't get to 100 targets. And yeah, I know that he missed a couple of games with that suspension issue, but I really don't care. There wasn't anybody else there that deserved a bunch of targets. Now, maybe that's offensive philosophy, and maybe that will change this year for Pittsburgh with Mike McCarthy at the helm. But when you take a look at things last year, DK Metcalf should have had well over 100 targets, even though he missed 2 games, and he didn't. This is going to be a better offensive scheme for him. I think he's going to be just fine. I think him and Michael Pittman can coexist. I think we might be looking at guys that are both wide receiver 2s if Aaron Rodgers returns. If it's a guy like Kyler Murray, then maybe we have to dial that back a little bit. But I think DK Metcalf could find himself with double-digit touchdowns. And if he does, that's where we would be looking at potential wide receiver 1 territory. Who does this hurt the most? It's Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is a product of the former coaching staff. And I think Jaylen Warren can still be utilized very well. But when Pittsburgh brings in a guy that Mike McCarthy is familiar with and has had nothing but good things to say about Rico Dowdle, that is where things become very concerning, because Jaylen Warren, who was essentially the starting running back last year and was successful even with Kenneth Gainwell, I believe that he's probably lost his starter spot. And we're going to see him regulated to more of a pass catching role. And because of that, because they've added Michael Pittman, that is where things get concerning for Jaylen Warren. Because I don't know if he's going to get nearly the amount of work that Kenneth Gainwell had as the pass catching back last season. Rico Dowdle appears to be the number one, Jaylen Warren probably the number two. Rico Dowdle probably not going to make an impact in the passing game. Jaylen Warren probably more of a third down back. If there's an injury or whatever, then maybe we see Jaylen Warren see a little bit more time. But I would be willing to bet that Rico Dowdle is going to be the guy that you want in fantasy to begin the season. But I think adding Michael Pittman is also a disaster for Pat Freiermuth as well. What Michael Pittman does in the passing game works really well with Aaron Rodgers when it comes to those slants, those intermediate routes, things that Michael Pittman can do over the middle of the field. DK Metcalf, of course, he's more of a field stretcher, but can win everywhere as well. So Pat Freiermuth is really going to have to find his way into the end zone. If he can't get 8 to 10 touchdowns, more than likely, he's going to be fantasy irrelevant more times than not. And when we know more about the quarterback situation, we will absolutely update everybody with what it means for all the fantasy assets in Pittsburgh. But as of right now, that's my breakdown on where some of these guys may or may not end up landing when you start taking a look at your fantasy drafts. And with some more players still left to come off the board in free agency, you better subscribe and you better turn on the bell notifications, because anytime there's breaking news, you know we'll be live with it as quickly as we possibly can. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we run it again.